Welcome to The Snap with Alexis Perry and Sydney Jones.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube for this week's edition of The Snap. I'm Sydney Jones, your host, joined by my co-host, Alexis Perry. And joining us on today's show is ESPN's Michelle Beisner-Buck. Michelle is an NFL features reporter for ESPN, in which her features appear exclusively on Monday Night Countdown. She's also been a guest host for NFL Live and so much more. Michelle, we can't thank you enough for joining The Snap this week, especially since you're down in Mexico right now. So how are you? Are you enjoying yourself down there a little bit?
No, it's terrible. It's awful. I'm at the beach every day. I'm poolside, oftentimes with a margarita, way too early in the day. It's great. It's wonderful. We are down here for a while, and I've got my 3-year-old twin boys running around somewhere right now, probably in the pool. Hopefully not with a margarita in hand, but it's heavenly in Cabo.
Well, we are so jealous, and it means even more to us that you're taking the time out to chat with us while you're on vacation. So
we should be doing the podcast on the beach is what you should have done.
Yeah,
you guys should have come down. That's right. What are we think? We're not using our heads, ladies.
No. Next time for sure.
That's right.
Well, let's jump straight into it. You know, like I mentioned, you are an NFL features reporter for ESPN. So what makes a good feature story? You know, what are the key components to a good storytelling?
Well, and every week is a little bit different. Sometimes I'm just doing straight convos, which are pretty straightforward, game related questions, obviously, about that Monday night matchup. But a good human interest story has exactly that, has a good human interest. It doesn't necessarily have to pull and tug at your heartstrings every week, but everybody has a story to tell. And it's amazing how many stories are out there that have not been told. We have this incredible features department, and every week we get together and we pitch ideas, and then we kind of narrow those down, and then we narrow those down. And by Monday afternoon, I kind of know where I'm going or how I'm going to pursue X, Y, and Z. We've been really lucky over the years. I feel like we've gotten some really great opportunities with evergreen stories that have made a long lasting impact and changed lives, which to me, that's the Emmy. Everybody obviously strives for the Emmy or the Oscar or whatever, but if you can tell a story, and the one that always comes to mind, because I think it really has had the most impact, is the story that I did on Leah Still years ago, and then followed that up the following year, and then followed it up years later. It has raised so much money because of the awareness that it created, and what Devin and Leah Still have done as far as a cancer movement has literally saved and changed countless of thousands of lives. So those are the things. It makes me proud. I remember when I was at NFL Network, and I was there for 7 years before I went over to ESPN, and I was a general field reporter, and I was plane hopping. I had a bag packed at the front door, and would get a call from my producer at 6 a.m. like, get on a plane. I lived in LA at the time. Get on the plane. You've got to report on Colin Kaepernick with the 49ers at noon. I'm like, okay. And then you're scrambling, like, what's the news? What am I going to do? Like, what's the injury that we're talking about? What's the matchup? And those are quick kind of hits, 60 seconds and a minute and a half every hour on the hour for our flagship shows Thursday through Sunday. And I loved that, right? It was such a different grind, but there is so much more gratification and satisfaction in watching a piece unfold, in doing the research, in preparing the questions, in connecting with the person you're interviewing, and then editing and voicing it and wrapping around it and just watching it make a difference. That's a very long-winded answer to what makes a good story, right?
Michelle, you know what? You've held so many roles throughout the years, but was there a part of you that always felt like feature reporting is what you really wanted to do?
I guess so. I always have. I remember when I was a cheerleader for the Broncos a million years ago. My first year was 1997. And I remember then I was doing just little tiny feature story vignettes at Fox Sports Net Rocky Mountain region for a little show there. And those were more like personality profiles. But I have a real genuine interest and passion for wanting to know people and wanting to know where they came from and how they got there and why they're there and what makes them tick and what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are. So I don't know that it's what I always thought that I would do, but I'm pretty damn happy that it's what I'm doing right now.
Well, your portfolio of features, is certainly notable and extensive. I think back to some of the features you did with Broncos players and coaches, former Broncos safety Rahim Moore, who suffers from a rare condition, called acute compartment syndrome. And then one of the Broncos' former head coaches, John Fox, after he returned from his successful, heart surgery, when you have pieces like that and stories like those to tell, how challenging is it to kind of convey their full story to the viewers?
It's tough. I think every week, the hardest part, especially with stories like John Fox, Rahim Moore, even the tribute piece that we did on Pat Bowlen a couple of years ago, you leave so much on the cutting room floor, and it kills me. That's maybe the hardest part of my job, right? Because I want it all to get in because there's so much more to tell, but you get 4 minutes in a show to convey the best possible version of their story as possible. And there are hours of interviews that we go through, hours, and multiple people that you interview for these kinds of pieces. That's difficult. The editing is hard. The editing is challenging, but I have like this love-hate relationship with it, because I want to fight for certain things to get in there, but sometimes you got to pick your battles and you got to listen to people that have been doing this for a lot longer than I have, that know how to really tighten up a piece and make it just kind of glide through so that you don't even want to blink because you don't want to miss anything. I do remember though, when we did the tribute to Pat Bowlen, and Mr. Bowlen was still alive, but he was deep in the throes of Alzheimer's. And we spoke with Gary Kubiak was the head coach at the time, Joe Ellis, John Elway, Greek, the head trainer. We talked to so many people that have known him for so many years. And I had such a dear friendship with him as well. And all of us, as we're doing this interview, kept going in and out of, he is a great man. He was a great man. He was the best owner. He is the best owner. But that was a really difficult piece to do because he was still with us, but he was so deep in the throes of Alzheimer's at that point. And we had so many, we had countless anecdotes from all those guys that have been with him for however many, decades. And yet you have to pick and choose. And I think at the end of it, we put together a really nice piece that people were proud of. And that's really all that matters. But that's the hardest part, is leaning, I've got like a big broom at the end of the day, just like sweeping up the footage that gets left behind. It's maddening for me. It's like breaks my heart every week.
Well, I did see that feature that you did on Pat Bull, and I do have to say, you told his story incredibly well, Michelle. You mentioned being a Denver Broncos cheerleader. You mentioned field reporting. Can you kind of walk us through that path that you took to get to where you are right now?
Yeah, I was a dancer growing up. My family were huge Broncos fans and NFL fans. We had season tickets and we're at every game. We were going to the games when it was like the Carl Mecklenburg era and the Orange Crush and those days, Dan Reeves. And I knew when I turned 18, it's like, okay, wait a second. This is the perfect marriage of what I want to do. I'm a dancer and have been a dancer my entire life. I love the Broncos. I knew at that point, I either wanted to work in sports broadcasting or in acting. And I was going to school for both. At the time when I went to school, they didn't even have a journalism major. It was mass communications with an emphasis in journalism. But I double majored in theater and in mass communications. And the first year actually that I auditioned for Broncos, I did not make the team. I was a finalist, but I didn't make the team. Went back the next year, made it, and that was, again, 1997, which...
Good year.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't think I could have had a better ride. Super Bowl 32, Super Bowl 33. It's like I rode that wave pretty hard until I finally hung up the chaps in 2003. But I really, because I was going to school for journalism because I made sure that I asked a lot of questions to everybody. I wanted to know everybody in the Broncos organization. I wanted to understand the game better than I already did. I was just like a sponge. Like, I think that every Broncos cheerleader, they all have careers. We're very smart, driven women. And I made sure that I wasn't just performing every Sunday or every Monday on those sidelines, that I was really using that opportunity to understand the game and get to know people within the organization that would maybe be able to give me some advice, maybe be able to write me a good recommendation, maybe take me under their wing. And thankfully, that happened. And I was actually a pit reporter for the Champ Car World Series, and that's a whole different Oprah. But I was doing like all the entertainment emceeing at the Pepsi Center, and I was the pit reporter, but I was really wanting to be on the NFL sidelines. And I asked Mr. Bowlen, I said, Mr. B, if you know anyone that would just look at my reel, anyone, I'm moving to LA. I really want to give this a shot. And he took a look at the reel, and he actually made a call along with Fred Godelli, who was somebody else that was a mentor of mine, who is the executive producer of Sunday Night Football. They both kind of took me under their wing. I mean, really helped me. I mean, there was not a time that neither one of them would say no if I emailed them a question, or every time I called with a question, they would take it. It was unreal. It was truly the best gift of my life. But I remember Fred Godelli and Mr. Bowlen put a call into NFL Network and said, would you just take a meeting with her? And, anyone, not anyone, but people can get you in the door, but it's your job to keep yourself there. And that was it. I moved to LA and I started working there like instantly. So it was pretty crazy.
That truly speaks to who Mr. B was as a person.
The best, the absolute best. He was very involved in our program too. He wanted the cheerleaders to succeed. He wanted them to have a platform. He wanted them to be known for something more than just, the chicks on the sidelines. I mean, he attended a lot of our events. He came and spoke to all of us and our teams at our end of the year banquets. He was really involved and really special that way. And I truly, having kind of been around every NFL team that I have, I don't know any other owner in the NFL that does that with their cheerleading program.
Well, and it just shows how well respected he is throughout the entire league. He just picks up the phone and you have a job almost immediately. It's incredible. It really is. But speaking of kind of the roles that you've held, you mentioned the Champ Car World Series, studio host, field reporter, just as a whole, how have all of these jobs really molded you into the well-rounded reporter that you are now?
I think that the acting and the theater training that I had was hugely beneficial to my work in front of the camera as a reporter. I think it also helps when you read a script, you're trying to connect with a character. You're trying to become that character. When I sit down and I do research on Rahim Moore, I'll just go back to that. I really had to try to empathize with everything that he was going through, everything that he had faced, the adversity, the challenges, the struggles. So that when I sit down with him, I don't have 10 general questions in front of me. I feel like I've gone down the rabbit hole with these people that I interviewed, and I've really gotten to know their stories so that we can sit and have a conversation. And I think that that's how you get the best out of these people. But I'm telling you, theater training, dance training, being an NFL cheerleader, being in front of people and cameras, for as long as, I've been doing that since I was a little girl. It all helps. It all, I've got this huge utility belt with all these tools in it, and it really has benefited me in everything that I've done, but especially in storytelling.
I actually used to be a dancer too, Michelle, and I feel that
right.
Sometimes when I go on camera, I kind of just flip that switch of oh, you're in front of the audience, you're back performing. It's kind of
no
a
doubt
mindset that you have that you just turn on.
Yes,
It helps
no doubt.
too.
And I don't know how you guys feel, but I always felt, and maybe it's just because I was on stage from, at such a young age, but I actually feel more comfortable when I'm in front of a camera, when I have a microphone in my hand, when I'm on a stage performing, than I do maybe anywhere else. It's just a very natural feeling that I have. And I think some of that is, that's just, everyone has like kind of their gift or what they love. And some of that is just innate, but a lot of that is like training from being a dancer, being in theater, just really, and dedicating yourself to your craft too. I study a lot. I read a lot. You can never be complacent in what you do if you want to continue to do it.
And there's something about that live aspect of it as well. Like I started my career at Pepsi Center, now Ball Arena as well, as an in-arena reporter host. And it's like something about being live. Like I know you can relate to this, that adrenaline. It's so fun. And it's so hard to explain it to people when you're like, man, you just go on and a switch flips and you're just kind of a different person, but the best version of yourself in a weird way.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And not strangely enough, when I was doing all the in-game emceeing for the Nuggets and the Avs and the Mammoth, that is how I fell into this Champ Card World Series pit reporting, which, by the way, I loved. Had that series not gone bankrupt, I would still be in auto racing today. I loved every second of that gig. It was incredible. But I just had a moment. I remember it was the Denver Grand Prix and I was doing all the, hey, come here to pit lane and see how fast you can change a tire. Oh, this is the best place to watch at turn 8. Oh, go here for funnel cake, whatever, you guys know the gig. And Paul Newman's driver, Sebastian Bourdais was his driver of Newman Haas Racing. And he won the race. And my producer, I don't remember who it was, but my producer for that day said, go talk to Paul. And I said, oh, all right. Because here's the thing too, and I'm sure that you guys have this as well. I am fearless. I will try anything. I will talk to anyone. I will treat everyone the same way. So I don't care if you're Paul Newman, Pat Bowlen, or Johnny Smith that is at a hot dog vendor in New York City. Like we're just people, right? And my whole thing is, it's like, okay, if I can just take those two things, be fearless and walk up to Paul Newman and ask him about winning the race, because I didn't know about open wheel racing, not one thing. And I walked up and I just kind of went with what I know. Hey, Paul, Sebastian just won the race. How do you feel? I feel great, da-da-da. And then I went, oh, well, let's celebrate. You want to dance? Because that's just what I know. And he said, darling, I'm 80, but if I was 79, I would. And I was like, oh God, I love you. And I was like, okay, well, congratulations, Mr. Newman. Congratulations to Sebastian Bourdais. From that, the executive producer of Champ Car came up to me and said, do you know anything about auto wheel racing? No. Can you learn? Yeah. I did a 6-month crash course and then off I went. And I did it for 4 years and it was just phenomenal. But I really think that betting on yourself, being fearless, not saying no to any opportunity, and just and honing relationships and treating people the same. It does huge wonders for any career, for anybody's. Hold on. Oh God, I thought my kids just came home again. I was like, you guys stay out. Does anything, does wonders for anyone's success. It really does.
Right. Just be a good person, right?
Just be a good person. Yeah. Yes. We're in this business where there are so many people that, I think my favorite saying is, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. It's like, absolutely, man, that's great that you are, X, Y, and Z. I don't care. Like, stop. Nobody is better than anyone else because you are lucky enough or talented enough to do X, Y, or Z. I mean, everyone has talent and a story and has the right to be treated the same way. And it's pretty incredible how many people in this business are not nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure somebody who is maybe slightly more important than most, your husband, Joe Buck. You guys have twins. How do you guys balance this work-life thing? Being a mom for you and your career, his career as well, the kiddos running around. How do you find balance?
I don't know. I mean, right now, I could completely believe you guys and tell you like, oh, we meditate every day and we do. No, listen, they're three. They are three-nagers. We are in the trenches right now, and we are just merely surviving, and that's the truth. But it's okay. It's also the greatest kind of ride of our lives, and every day presents kind of a new challenge, but also something really cool that they discover or say or do that, I try to make mental notes of everything, and because it really goes so fast. I mean, I can't believe that they're already three, but it's a lot during the season. It's a lot. Joe is gone a lot. I'm gone a lot. Last year with COVID, it was different. Obviously, we had a makeshift studio in my basement, and I had one crew that came in through our garage, set up. We did all of our interviews and editing via Zoom, and then I could walk up the stairs and be mom. And so that was great. I also realized that I really like being on the road. That's just the truth too. But Joe still had to travel, and you just make it work. And I think what you do is when you are at home with the kids, you just, you soak in every second. You make every second count. You're present for every moment. As tired as you are, as frustrated as you might be, like, you just got to soak it in. And I don't know, it's pretty awesome. But three, forget the terrible twos. Terrible twos were nothing. These are the three-nager stage is mind blowing.
Do you think does it make it easier that you and Joe are in the same industry? You guys, obviously can relate in so many different ways. You guys understand the hours, you can bounce ideas off of each other. Or is it a little bit more difficult because you guys are kind of so aligned when it comes to the season?
No, I think I really hesitated to get involved with him or with anyone that I worked with in the same industry because of that. There's also a perception with women too. And I didn't want it to look like, oh, Michelle is dating Joe Buck. I mean, what would that mean really anyway? But in the back of my mind, women have to be particularly aware. And I just was a little too concerned about the perception of how it would look that Michelle Beisner was dating Joe Buck. So I resisted that. And also thought, I don't know, like us being in the same industry, is that going to be harder? Is it going to be easier? It has been the greatest gift because we do understand it's such a unique, world that we work in, and the schedule is crazy, and the demands, the pressure, the hours, the political kind of nonsense, the opportunities or lack thereof. Just all of it. A lot of people ask us like, well, what do you guys talk about at dinner? Do you sit and talk sports? No, we do not, but we can, but no. I mean, we are there to support each other and to root for each other, to cheer each other on, to provide even constructive criticism, to, have each other's back in every way. But when we're home, like, work is done and we are just Joe and Michelle and Blake and Wyatt, and that's it. And it's great.
Well, Michelle, before you go, we have one last question for you. You've given such great advice throughout this whole episode, but what's your biggest piece of advice, that you give anyone who wants to get into this business?
I think now more so than ever, you need to be a very self-sufficient jack of all trades talent. You need to know how to write. You need to know how to produce. You need to know how to shoot. I mean, it's different. You don't have to start kind of locally and then work your way up. The path to getting a national gig is much different than it was 15, 20 years ago. So, as you guys know, I mean, there's social media has just changed everything. And I think it's really important for people to stay focused, to stay interested, and to keep learning. I mean, as much as you possibly can. Meet people, learn the technology changes. I kind of missed that window where I don't have to know everything, I'm like a little past that, which is great. But now I think you've got to be able to say, I can write, I can produce, I can shoot, I can edit, I can do it all. And I think you should do that anyway. I mean, I can do that now, but I didn't have all those tools in my tool belt initially. And I think it's important to kind of keep your head on straight, I mean, just stay the course and don't get distracted. I think that social media, again, like, it's changed our world. And I think there's temptation in that. And I just don't think that we should give it the kind of attention that it's getting right now. You know what I mean?
Do it the right way.
Yeah. Do it the right way. Do it the right way. And if it takes you longer to get there, at least you did it the right way. Have morals, have a good, like, moral compass. Don't get distracted. Don't get tempted. It's not worth it. I know too many women and men in this business that didn't do it the right way. And it's not the way to do it. But it's just keep learning, keep your head on straight. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
And be fearless.
And be fearless, y'all. Bet on you and just be fearless.
I love it.
Well, Michelle, we truly can't thank you enough for joining us today. Go enjoy Cabo,
Nice.
family. Go get.
Thanks you guys so much. Thank you. And continued success and best of luck. And I'm proud of both of you. You're representing that organization really well.
Thank
you, Michelle.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, that's a wrap on this episode of The Snap. A big thanks again to Michelle for joining us. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to The Snap and follow the Broncos Podcast Network on Twitter so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest episodes.